Tonight on If the Kids Are United.
I was able to see that I would just get super stoned all day. All social media is a wall of perfection. It's like me just not being able to really tell someone I need help.
If the kids are united, they would never be divided. If the kids are united, they would never be divided.
8th of February, 2019, local time, 11:28 p.m., local weather, 35 degrees. Tonight my guest is Buddy. Buddy is an 18-year-old producer and web developer from the Southwest who I've collaborated with on several projects over the last year. At the time of our interview, Buddy was finishing the masters on his group's first EP, designing their merch, and also figuring out how to balance all this while getting his GED. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's the high school equivalency exam for those who choose not to continue their education in the public school system. Having had my own nightmare of a journey through many educational institutions, I spoke to Buddy about the importance of honesty, choices, and what it's like to survive as a teenager in the age of Instagram. Oh my God, that just sounds so butt. The age of Instagram. Puke. Anyways. Coming to that brick wall, do you feel like you saw it coming a mile away?
The brick wall being me struggling with studies and just school in general.
Basically, you literally getting expelled from school.
Yeah. I didn't get expelled necessarily from school, but I finished out the year. I just had the worst track record that year that I had, to my own doing. I did it to myself, and I took a lot of what I was I did foresee it. I did at the time when I noticed things with my parents, which is a lot of what I blamed personally for me not doing well in school. When I noticed that stuff started to get bad, I started to foresee me being okay, yeah, don't get lazy and just let it super weigh you down, and then don't let your shit get out of your hands, dog. I could foresee myself I was able to see that I would just get super stoned all day and just rather do that and prefer that over going to school and dealing with shit, dealing with people and dealing with teachers being very blunt, and I just couldn't get over the fact that I wasn't able to go home and have a comfortable, stable conversation about anything. So I felt unstable everywhere I was going. Not unstable in not a mental way really, just in I didn't feel I could communicate how I felt to anyone, even my friends, because that environment I was in was more surrounded by friends, and I was hanging out with people more, skipping school, going to parties and shit, and chilling with people, and I don't know, it just I felt I still couldn't address the real problem, that there was some real shit with my parents going on that I had been subconsciously motivated to ignore. And just because over time I had learned that okay, yeah, parents fight, because I got that normal talk that people argue and people disagree. So I grew up and having this form of argument being what I recognized as argument, that just changed my whole perception of arguing in general. And so when my parents would argue, it would be really, really bad. So I would see other people argue and be okay, I wouldn't get I wouldn't get shook about it. I'd just be okay. That sort of made me have thicker skin in a way. I don't know, but I don't know. I felt the problem was me just not being able to really tell someone hey, I need help, because I'm shaking talking about it because I still don't even talk about it.
I was in a situation where I had a group of friends that was probably really similar to yours, and all my friends smoked weed, all my friends were into art, all my friends played music, all my friends were skaters. And basically, even though I knew that, they wouldn't judge me for what was going on, I, felt this wall between me and them. And I wasn't able to tell them what was going. I just, had this crazy fear of judgment, I just, it was, unending.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
It just made me feel. And I will promise you one thing: that is something you fucking get over. It definitely is, because once you realize that nobody gives a fuck about anybody but themselves, which sounds dark, but the truth is,
no, but that's true.
It's really liberating. True. Once you discover that, you definitely realize, okay, this is my ship. I'm sailing it. But it seems like during that time in your life, you're going through so much shit for the first time. You constantly have to deal with, and it's weird because it must be double for you with having social media in high school. We were still riding our horses to school back in my day. And, you know, so I can't imagine the added pressure of literally somebody Instagramming like, I just got into college. Did that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Like all the time, like to see like, I mean, like there's that conversation that's been had and like that's always had between people about like all social media is a wall of perfection and everybody putting their best selves up for like viewing. So like if you're looking at that all day and you're like being as young as I was when like and like the people in my high school and shit like us like being so influenced by pretty much anything and like we can pretty much have like the like greatest mood swings over like the smallest things to have like some sort of outlet like that brings you all those opportunities for like communication can be very bad. It can be very like self-destructing. So like but it didn't necessarily affect me personally. I witnessed other people take it a lot of that shit to heart, but I learned growing up, my mom made a very conscious effort to be like, hey, a lot of the stuff people say on the internet is like either not true or they're just boasting or it's just like, you know, you can't let that get to you. So like, and I also like, I kind of have like tougher skin as far as like internet media and like social media and stuff goes. Like it doesn't get to me as much because I grew up watching super edgy content and like YouTube, like when it was like bare bones and there was still like porn on YouTube. When all these websites were first starting out, it was just still so raw and just so jagged and all these like super sketchy people were on there and I was just like this little kid, but like that was all I did because I just sat in my room and just did that and then played video games. So like that's where I developed my, you know, sick social awareness of like, hey, a lot of people suck, but like you can ignore most of it and keep walking.
Were there kids in your class who like I know like there's always those kind of like Instagram girls who, you know, they can be guys and girls, but they're basically like Instagram thoughts.
That shit out here is real. Like,
were there kids in school who had that?
Absolutely.
What is it dealing with like a kid in high school who has like 10K Instagram followers?
I know, like, specifically with YouTube's name, in this situation, it was, like, this kid had, like, over 500K subs, and he was just, like, most of the shit he was doing, you could tell, was very attention-grabby, which is a lot of the YouTube shit, but, like, he was doing, like, all these stupid pranks, and he's, like, throwing, throwing dildos at people, doing, like, jackass shit, basically. That was his whole, like, pitch on YouTube. That was his whole thing. That's where he got his following from, and I think when you're our age and you witness something like that succeed in one area, you see that works on the internet, you see people like it on the internet, so then this kid goes to school and he starts doing shit like that, and then it's just, like, not translating the same. People just witness him as, like, obnoxious, and people shut him out, and then, like, being around someone like that was kind of weird because I witnessed him at the peak of his, like, you know, like, I don't care about anyone, anything, I've got blah, 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 so-and-so subscribers, like, I'm chilling, to being, like, bottom of the barrel, like, super just alone, and, like, people shut him out, and, like, it was sad, but at the same time, I wouldn't say it's sad first, I would say it was, like, relieving because he was going crazy, and, like, it was, like, a big disturbance, but it was also sad because, like, you know, like, he wasn't necessarily, he didn't know any better.
What do you feel like leads somebody to that?
Definitely faulty parenting, for sure. I can't say not from a perspective of course, you know, I'm too young, I don't know how to parent, I don't know, like, what it's like to raise a child, but, like, being out here where there is this much privilege and you witness these kids getting either an allowance or, like, a certain amount of money is allowed to them to where they can do whatever they want and their parents just want them to, like, have that money so they'll leave them alone, that constructs certain, like, people. And that kid was for sure a result of, like, parents being like, here's a few bucks for your allowance, like, leave us alone, daddy's working, mommy's cooking, you know, the stereotypical, like, I hate to say this, but, like, stereotypical, like, privileged white family, like, it was just, like, he's, like, an only child, they come from, like, a lot of wealth, and, like, his dad would work, and then, like, he would just get all of this money. Like, cumulatively and go out with his friends, and either, when we got older, like in high school, he'd spend it on like bud and like beer and like just partying and stuff. But like even when he was in like middle school, I remember this kid was just like never not doing something.
When I look at social media, what I definitely see is the kid in my class. How am I going to describe this poignantly? He was noticeable, but not necessarily popular or respected. He had a voice, he or she, they wanted to use it, but there was no soapbox for them to stand on. And now everybody's got that soapbox. So you can immediately get to a place where people are like, who knows what kind of mood they're in when they're watching shit, but they'll see something and they're like, hey, that guy's not so bad. And then they have to experience it in real life. And when somebody gets a little taste, that expression, like you give them an inch, they take a mile, they don't know how to use it, so they abuse it. And I think that can definitely translate into a situation where you're just throwing darts left and right. You get that little high of what it's like to be noticed. It's like heroin for people, dude. And what you were saying before about allowance, I want to touch on that because like money was a huge issue for me in high school because I knew a lot of people that had a lot of it and I did not. Mm-hmm. So in addition to school, which is what we're just talking about here kind of loosely, in addition to that school pressure, get your grades, get into college, buy a house and have a wife and kids. I don't even know if I don't want that shit. Do people want that anymore? But like,
yeah, no.
Nah, old man, you tripping.
No. Everybody's like trying to get in like a big house with all their homies and just party all the time.
Well, I hope I'm invited to yours one day.
Hell yeah!
But what I'm saying,
you got your own room and everything, man.
You give me a cot. You give me a cot and a cup, a fork.
Got you, man. You got a garage and everything.
So like there is that added pressure where like clothes was a huge thing for me. Because I knew how I wanted to look. I knew how I wanted to be seen, but I just did not have the fucking guap, I just didn't. Watching people flex was really difficult for me. So what's it like being in a situation where you get to see people hyper flex? Not only do they get a benzo, but everybody on the internet knows about it. What is that like?
Being around like a constant flex?
Yeah.
It's like, at first, there's that initial, I would say, from, my perspective and my friends' perspectives, because we're always witnessing these things together. We're always, in a pack all the time, moving around, seeing all these, people flexing their Supreme belts and their Gucci belts and, all this designer shit that their parents bought them. We would witness it at first and be because it starts, 8th grade to freshman year, and then it's oh, dude, I gotta do that. There's always that one kid in the group that does it, gets it, everybody in the group laughs at him, it's bro, you don't have to do that, and then they drop it, sell it, and then it goes to, they just get annoying, and then, that really is, I would say, a thick chunk of what divides some social groups from the time they're in middle school to high school, because you have these, in middle school you have these, blends of, all of the kids, not necessarily, the full truth, but popular kids, the sports kids, the nerdy kids. Middle school, that shit doesn't matter, dude. That shit's just you're all buds, you're all friends, you're all doing this together. And then high school comes along, and there's these other things placed on you that could prevent you from either making friends or making the right friends to lead you down the right path, or you're necessarily
what are those things?
For sure, stuff like that, people flexing stuff that's not theirs, and it is theirs, but they didn't, it was given to them, and it's sort of, because it's that becomes the only topic of conversation in regards to them now. So you immediately see them, and then the exact same conversation reignites, and it's oh yeah, did daddy buy you that? Did daddy buy you that purse? Did your mommy buy you that phone? Or did your daddy buy you that $400,000? No joke, there's a kid driving a Raptor right now. It's insane. And it's just that's the divide. I mean, that's the thing that potentially divide people who were once friends at a younger age into their developing ages of 16, 17, 18 years old. Does that make sense?
It's interesting to me to see that those things still exist the way that they do, because obviously it's not anything to do with where you went to school, who you went to school with, but just at that age, people are figuring out what stuff is for the first time. They're figuring out value for the first time, their own values, social value, material value, and it all seems so intense, and it's always there, but it doesn't matter in the same capacity because the world just gets much bigger. The world becomes much bigger and you ultimately find your tribe. And I think the way that it evolved for me was that I found my tribe on a sort of like superficial level, just like always around me. Like they had to play music, they had to be like kind of weird, like they had to smoke weed, they had to do X, Y, and Z. But as I got older, what really changed, and this is like a huge like factor in like when you realize you're growing up, is that your moral value starts to play a significantly more important role in your life. Because the truth is, people fuck up. People fuck up really badly in life. And I've done it. My friends have done it. My parents have done it. It happens to people. But what you realize is at a certain point, there are some people who just morally have a larger gray area than I mean, I can only speak for myself, than I do. And their willingness to kind of do the quote unquote wrong thing instead of the right thing at a moment's notice is a huge trigger for me now. You know, I don't want to be around people that are just going to move real shifty because I know that that association with them makes me feel uncomfortable. And doesn't matter that much when you're in high school because the stakes aren't there yet. But when you watch someone get fucked out of money for the first time and you watch somebody else succeed and make lots and lots of money off of an idea that people came up with mutually, it changes you. Your worldview is all of a sudden altered. And I think what you're talking about is like the first taste of that. You were like in 8th grade, we were all buds. And like when we got to high school, it got different. So like,
Got weird.
yeah, now that you're basically like on work release from jail right now, that's like how I kind of view your situation. Have you seen that video where he calls his homie on work release?
Oh, no, I have. Wait.
He's like, yo, let me pull up on you. Let's smoke one. He's like, no, I can't do none of that shit. He's like, I'm not out. I'm not free. But totally. So like, you're not free. So like, what does that entail? You're going through a process where you're getting your GED. What did you think it was going to be like at first when you realized this had to happen?
I definitely didn't expect to, like, if it did, I definitely didn't expect to have the reaction that if it did happen, that I would, you know, I hate to say this sounds kind of stupid, but like regretful. Like I wouldn't, like, I'd feel bad for, I didn't think this, like, because like when I was thinking about it, I was so driven on like music is my thing. That's what I'm gonna do. Like I don't really care about anything else. Like, so I'm just gonna smoke weed and make music and be that guy. And then I didn't really consider regret, stupidly. But now that I'm here, it's like, sorry, my dad was talking to me. He was like waving at me. It's just sort of like, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I definitely should have thought this through. Like, saying it out loud makes me just sound kind of like stupid, but like,
what is it like doing it on your own? Like, how does that work?
Like the high school thing?
Yeah, like what do you have to do on like a daily basis?
Well, I gotta wake up, I gotta do the whole typical shower, shave, whole shebang, you know, normal human stuff. But like, it's just like, it's self-discipline. That's the thing. It's like, and that's not something that I have a 100% great grasp on. And like, it's a thing that I know if I did, I would benefit more from it sooner. It's just I'm not, and it's bad. Is it more
work than you thought it would be?
No, it's not. It's the amount of work I expected. I'm lacking more motivation to do it than I expected. Like I expected that, like when I'm out and doing it on my own, like how I was preaching when I was within the public school system, I was like, I'll do so much faster, I'll do this so much better. But now that I'm here, it's sort of like, maybe I'm not, but like I can't go back.
Well, I think you can do whatever you want, but B, I think what I know now is that structure's really, really good for me. I just have insane nuclear ADD. I have a brain that's all over the place all the time, and like walls are really good for me because I'm very free thinking naturally. I don't build walls around myself, so therefore when I have them around me, I'm able to function and do what I need to do. Do you feel like you have a system to doing it, or are you just like freewheeling it?
I feel like I'm constantly, when that question is presented to me by like my parents, it's like, what's your plan? I definitely come up with one, but I would say I'm pretty much shooting in the dark right now. But like it's in terms of like what I'm doing right now specifically with school, the workload isn't as much because I'm pretty much just creating a review to restudy and take this exam and stuff. But I know once I get back into the flow of and like actually doing lessons, like doing real schoolwork, I'm gonna have to change my game for sure.
If you could give anybody advice, like who's hearing it from a real person who is at a stage where he's getting it together and doing that, what would you tell them?
Like if somebody were at the beginning stages of what I described to you,
If they
like
saw the
similar-
brick wall in their periphery, let's say it was 20 miles away, not one, what would you tell them?
Right. I'd first of all tell them, because I'd like confirm with them that, hey, this is a wall and it's going to hurt a lot, but you're going to have to tough it out and like just be 100% from the day it kicks off till the day that it stops bugging you, because the second that you let off of the gas, you start slacking, is the day that you fall behind 20 notches when you every day work as hard as you get to go up one notch.
It's like push-ups, man.
Yeah.
And so if you're in a situation right now, how would you describe how much more difficult it is to do this by yourself than it is to do it with structure around you?
It's much more difficult to do it by. I would describe it as like there's unknowing stress and then there's knowing stress. There's a lot more unknowing stress when you're doing this. I know that's pretty basic, but like when you're doing it by yourself, you need to consider, when you're going to be doing it by yourself, you need to consider the fact, this is what I would say, you need to consider the fact that you're going to have a lot more instances where you don't know what to do, and that's going to suck. And asking for information is going to become sort of, in your mind, you'll either go down the path of thinking that it's a burden or it's an annoyance to others to ask for help. And like, that's not a place you would like to be as much as it is redeemable to get out of. Like it's easy to get out of that, but like, don't do it, because it's much easier to just be strong and do things on your own when you have the opportunity to execute.
High school was a death sentence for me. I had to study for finals, apply to colleges, and take the SATs twice after I was expelled from one school and forced to repeat my junior year at another. During that time in my life, I felt like everything I did or said might make or break the rest of my life, and it was for good reason. My world was still relatively small. Obviously, I didn't have social media until I was a freshman in college, and as a matter of fact, it hadn't been invented yet. Or popularized. I'm not sure which one, but the truth is, it's all a fucking mirage. No one runs that many marathons, has a body like that, or kills it so hard that they have nothing to worry about without going postal at some point or another. That's bullshit. I told someone recently that Instagram was like the mirror of Esterhead from Harry Potter. In the first book, Harry finds this mirror that shows him whatever he wants to see. Happiness, fame, fortune, all that. The thing is, if you stare in the mirror too long, your life fades away and you die. So my point here is embrace the moment and put your phone down. If it's causing you pain, throw it against the wall as hard as you can and get a flip phone. Go outside, fall in love, hop fences, live your life. We only got one. So it's really your choice to make it count. Oh yeah, and stay in school because it's a mondo pain in the ass to get your GED. Good night. If you or anyone you know under the age of 25 would like to share their story anonymously with If the Kids Are United, please contact us at whatineedisinformation@gmail.com.